Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So in today's video, as you can tell by the title, we will be talking about a potentially very large winter storm that could be occurring even now, really less than a week out. Probably around the Wednesday into the Friday time frame, depending on where you live. It is becoming more and more clear as to where this storm will occur. The models are starting to come into agreement, which is always something that we like to see. It is a encouraging sign, to say the least. Obviously, the system will first drop quite a bit of precipitation across the west and the northwest into portions of Idaho, Wyoming, Nevada, California, Oregon, Washington, and southern Canada. And yes, it will eventually move into the Midwest and produce most likely either heavy rain for your location or very, very heavy snow, depending obviously on where you live, and I'll show you that in just a second. Before we do that though, I would like to say that if you guys are new to this channel, hello and welcome. Check out the video, check out the channel, see if you would enjoy this type of content. If you would, consider subscribing. Obviously, don't do that just because I told you so. And if you have any comments or concerns, please leave them down below. I answer as many as I can. Usually I get to the majority of them. And liking the video or disliking it, whatever you do, that also helps out. The liking really helps out more than the disliking, obviously. So first off, I want to show you what's happening right now. This isn't the storm, for those wondering. This isn't the storm that's going to be kind of the one I'm talking about in today's title, but it is definitely one that has dropped quite a bit of precipitation across the west. Nothing historic, right? Definitely not anything comparable to the bomb cyclone or whatnot, but there's definitely some good snowfall rates for the mountains, good rainfall rates for where the rain is occurring, which is the lower elevations, valleys, and where the larger cities are placed. And I'm just going to track this back through the last 6 hours to show you what happened. Notice that there was some rain across California, the west into Idaho. You can see it's rather scattered, but there definitely is some good snow falling down across the northern kind of tip of the Sierra Nevadas. You can see right there, boom, just kind of progressing through in time, pretty much abating or weakening at this time across the south. Further south across northern Sierra Nevada. Yeah, this will be bringing a bit more precip as we go, but I'll show you that big storm in just a second and how it will kind of begin its onslaught. Here is a very strong storm out at the southeast, causing very strong waves, strong winds. It's almost like it's kind of like a nor'easter if it were to be a bit further towards the north and east, maybe produce some snow, but it won't. It will trek way off coast, and it won't really be much of an issue other than the areas that are kind of being impacted by it right now, obviously. So let me show you what kind of the weather models are showing in terms of this upcoming really big storm. Again, there's some disagreement still, actually just quite a bit, but much less than, say, yesterday or the day prior. So let me show you what the GFS does, and again, I'll stop it at around hour 200, because anything, honestly, with the pattern that we have right now, anything after hour 200 is chaotic and extremely hard to predict. Even the GFS, which is just one model that comes out 4 times a day, once it shows, one time it shows a very large storm at hour 250 with just one singular blast of very cold air, and then the model after that, using the same GFS, is just 6 hours later. The data shows, well, a series of Alberta Clippers, smaller systems, and even more colder air, not just one single blast. So it's really kind of hard to tell what will happen. But again, this storm is kind of going to be out ahead of that really confusing mess that the models are starting to pick up on. So let's just focus on that. Let me stop talking as much as I am and let just this play. Notice, I'll quickly go back and show you this again. We do have that northeast system pull away. Here's a timeline, by the way. Really, by the week, it's the week end over. It's by the weekend. The time the weekend is over, it's gonna be pretty much done. But look what happens across the west. Monday, we see a large inflow of precip. Again, that's that big system I've been talking about. Look what happens across the Midwest. Boom. Look across northern Minnesota, North Dakota, southern Canada. And look, it does stretch a very large cold front into the northeast. And if you recall, I'll stop it at this point because, again, I don't want to cause too much confusion. If you recall that this is the storm that kind of could be that 1-2 punch. And that's still definitely a possibility. So you can see it develops into a large system, very cold air behind it, very broad, strawed out kind of cold front. It does develop into a second one just further towards the north, not really affecting the United States with, I would say, snow or even southern Canada. But look right there, southeastern Canada could get absolutely blasted by the strengthifying of this storm. And yeah, what this will do in terms of rain for the northeast is, because this will become more vertical and kind of pressed to the north, as you saw right there, the cold front will slow down, so that will end up dropping quite a bit more rain across the areas where it's going to be raining, which is, you can see much of the eastern seaboard, really all the way down into Florida. And as we push this forward, you can see we do see the lake effects. Almost every single lake will be producing heavy lake effect. I don't know if I should call it heavy, but definitely substantial, especially for this time of the year. But at the same time, I mean, lake effect usually does occur at its heaviest around this time. So definitely a substantial event for some. And the long range models like the GFS, they're hard to determine using the models. It's hard to determine how much snow will fall from the lake effect because it's so lake effect is notoriously hard to predict. You could have one city seeing nothing, one city seeing even a few inches, or just a foot, as you see in some extreme cases. The variance is pretty big, and we will have to wait for the high-res models to kind of detail on that. But what we can do with this GFS model is show you that yes, the pattern will be conducive, so it's only a matter of what, when, how with that lake effect. But you can see it definitely blowing up. And look, we have followed kind of an Alberta Clipper, which again turns on the lakes yet again. It could be very heavy lake effects for much of the Great Lakes region, and following that there is more activity. And let me tell you that this model right here is actually one of the ones that keeps it calmer. And still, it shows a pretty big storm right there. Very large one moving on to the northwest. And let me just show you the one at 12Zs, right? So it showed that storm, and let me just show you what it showed with that current big one I'm talking about. Right, you can see that there are some differences. It doesn't develop as heavy of a snow, and it's more further, I guess, towards the north, if you will. But it's definitely kind of in a similar position. At least it's not just like one model run showing it, the other one not, which yesterday was still kind of occurring. But notice it does develop that 1-2 punch, or at least tries to. Brings in very cold air, but look what it shows after this pattern, or that storm. Look at the pattern. There's that clipper, so that's kind of stayed consistent. We see a constant flow of cold air. Look, snow right there, a little system bringing into the northeast, develops into a very large storm, and we continue to see just a lot of activity, lots of storm chances, lots of storm potential. And this one at 6 o'clock, let me show you this weather model, what it did with that storm that we are talking about today. Again, it moves it on to the west. The consistency has been there. It's a similar kind of shape, you can see, right? This one's much weaker, the one in the morning today, and kept it way further towards the north, but it was definitely there. Did deliver that 1-2 punch a bit more clearly, if you will, than the current model run, but again, that's still a bit further out, that second wave, rather than a first wave. And look what it shows in the long range. It develops this hybrid kind of blizzard for the almost the mid-Atlantic Ohio Valley, lake effect, very cold air, more systems, more snow. Just a very, very active pattern is most likely going to be brewing, probably, again, the one that is kind of anything after 250 hours, it is basically a coin toss, and we'll just have to wait and see whether it's extremely active, or not active at all, which again, that last scenario, not active at all, seems less and less likely to appear. So let me go back and slowly process the system. Again, it makes landfall onto the west coast. Let me go back around the time frame of late Monday into early Tuesday of this upcoming week. So again, it's not that far out, really 4 days out from when I'm recording this. We're actually more closer to 3.5. As I put this forward, look what happens. We see it zoom through the west into Tuesday and into Wednesday, and by really Wednesday morning and Wednesday afternoon, we start seeing the snow develop across the Dakotas, Minnesota. We do also see explosive rain, potentially some severe weather, maybe with that across Iowa into northern Missouri, with that cold front of this system, very strong winds, and boom, we have a very strong blizzard across Minnesota, southern Canada, and this thing blows up, right? Very, very strong cold air behind it. That cold front remains pretty strong, doesn't get it kind of winded out, and it takes support from the ocean around the time of Friday and Saturday of next week. And look, across the northeast, we start seeing heavy rain, potentially, depending on which model you look at. There could be a 1-2 punch again. If this is a bit more vertical, if you will, then this may kind of tap into some of that cold air and produce some snow either across southern Canada or into inland portions of the northeast and even mid-Atlantic. So we'll have to wait and see. That one is a bit less confident, but this one, that first wave, is definitely becoming more and more clear, if you will. So in terms of total rainfall, just from that system, I won't go up further. Well, might as well show you the total snowfall. And unfortunately, this model only takes us out to 114 hours. the most recent one. So let me switch to this website because I don't think it's the model's problem. I think it's the website. Tropical Tidbits sometimes is a bit slower in loading that precipitation. So again, this is the same model run. I'm just going to show you how much rainfall we can expect with that system. So this is into Saturday. Let me go into all the way till this storm is pretty much all said and done. And you can see across the Northeast, very heavy rain amounts where that cold front starts intensifying. Notice there's a pretty big gap here of not that much precip because it does get weakened for a bit, but it starts re-strengthifying into that big system, and you can see potentially some snow up here. Obviously, you can't tell just by looking at this map, but I'll show you the snowfall in just a second. Obviously, this would produce a lot of liquid if that snow were to occur, and you can see that where the snow doesn't fall, still decent rain amounts across portions where that cold front does develop its kind of first big blow of energy, if you will. And again, let's take a look at that total snowfall. Let's just assume a 10-to-1 ratio, maybe higher, maybe lower. I'm assuming it probably around that amount. And look at that. Northern Minnesota, this is probably the most extreme scenario you will get out of all the models. So yeah, 30, 40 inches. I would say that's a bit extreme. For now, I would say that again, the exact placement of this is still a bit unknown, but if you're living across, say, North Dakota, especially eastern North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin, the UP, southern Ontario, really southern, I would say, what is this, Manitoba, right? I may be wrong. No, I think that's Manitoba. Oh yeah, Manitoba. Anywhere in this area, be ready for a good amount of snow. I wouldn't say 40 inches, right? That's a bit ridiculous. But I would say, 14 to 15. Again, this may shift towards the west, maybe towards the east, towards the south, towards the north. But again, it's not like yesterday where I couldn't even give you a location. Today, it's becoming more and more likely that it would be kind of this general area. For this to be kind of way up here or way down here, right? It's very rather unlikely. But the intensity, the timing seems a bit more clear. So let me show you other models to show you that the agreement is kind of shared upon. So this is the Canadian, right? It is a very good model, and let me play this forward. So this only comes out twice a day. Still, it was very inconsistent, but it's starting to show that consistency and agreement with actually the GFS. There's that big beast moving in again by Tuesday and into Wednesday into the west. By midday Tuesday into, again, later afternoon Wednesday, you'll start seeing rain showers across Minnesota. Say you're in Minneapolis, the Twin Cities, rain. All right, South Dakota, Rapid City, some snow maybe. Notice the low pressure tracks over Minnesota, so that means anywhere south and east of that, really too warm for that snow. But look, this one, according to the Canadian, is much slower, much more bigger. It has a huge wind field, very, very strong. And it does, again, as you can see, start delivering snow into South Dakota, North Dakota, similar areas, but it's broad, it's bigger. It's actually a nastier system than what the GFS shows. This is a very, very, very potent, almost, blizzard if this were to occur, which again, I would say that there's a pretty good chance a blizzard could be occurring with this. Those winds are powerful, to say the least. And you can see the GFS didn't show as much snow for South Dakota, really at all, but the Canadian, it does. So it just, you can see that the placement is similar, but there are a few key differences. Now, I think the Canadian makes this a bit slower because, yes, it takes a bit more time to get organized. At this hour in time, 120, the GFS is already at. That blizzard is raging just northwest of Duluth. While here, the Canadian, it's still rainy. It's not as significant, so you can see the timing is off. But this is early Thursday. This is now Thursday, late at night into early Friday. Now that's where things start getting very serious. And you can see this continues well into Friday, even into Saturday, as snow showers continue across Wisconsin, Iowa, Minnesota. And look, that thing stretches all the way into Canada, into southern, central Canada. And that cold front remains strong, very potent. Will it become a 1-2 punch? We'll have to see. You can see the Canadian tries kind of acting things up, where it keeps that precipitation from that cold front what am I trying to say? Keeps that precipitation from that cold front there for a while, and that definitely, again, could result in maybe more of a tilt towards the northeast, and deliver some heavier snow. It does try showing some of that, and actually, surprisingly, it also shows a clipper that the GFS, if you recall, showed. And look, the lakes are on during that whole time frame, so that's definitely something to watch for. Obviously, total snowfall from this, according to the Canadian, would be very impressive across much of Minnesota, Wisconsin, the Dakotas, into Michigan, and the UP. From all that lake effect, if that clipper were to occur, you could see 3 to 4 inches even as far south as central Illinois, Indiana, Ohio. Again, is this accurate? I wish I could tell you. At this point, it's definitely a possibility. Will this occur? Again, again, it's just a possibility. So you may be asking which model do I prefer? I don't know, honestly. They both seem reasonably accurate, but just because the GFS is kind of a bit, I guess, more consistent with the system, I would say its run is more possible. But again, I don't think that what it showed with the 40 inches across northern Minnesota would occur either. So there's some unrealistic aspects to really both of the models. Again, it's a possibility for either of these to come true. And even if, one or the other does, it's still a big system. The story doesn't change. However, the story may change if, say, a forecast occurs like what the European shows, which is a bit different. And let me show you how it differs. And the European has been consistently kind of keeping it a bit weaker. It's been consistently changing it as well, like the other ones. Just it has been consistently keeping on a weaker side, while the other ones have been consistently keeping it stronger. So there's our system. Again, similar timing, and it does blow up into a very large rain event, but it just doesn't take that snow, it doesn't take that cold front and slow it down enough. You can see that at this point the Canadian and GFS are all showing a very big snowstorm, and it does show pretty heavy snow across Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and Ontario. Even there, though, it's not as significant, and it does start to ramp up across Ontario. You can see it's further towards the north. We do see some pretty significant rainfall, so still a pretty nasty system, just not as much across the viewing area that I usually forecast for. A bit further north towards Ontario, definitely a possibility. You can see, again, more of a northern scenario, which, again, I emphasize is possible, though it could also be likewise a more southern scenario with what the Canadian showed, more heavy snow across even, Iowa or southeastern South Dakota. And this does spin away, and it does bring a very large amount of precip for the northeast, and it does try making that 1-2 punch right there. You can see it does develop into another system. Will that occur more across the northeast or the Quebec area if it's more of a Canadian scenario? It's tough to tell, but look at the lakes. Look at the Great Lakes. I mean, they're all on fire, and the European doesn't really show a clipper system, which makes me believe that this is a bit of a kind of weaker in terms of, I don't think it's going to be as likely to come true, not because I want a blizzard across the areas that see it. This is definitely a possibility, but really the fact, if you recall, the Canadian and GFS both show that clipper kind of occurring right after. The European doesn't, which by itself isn't really a factor to diminish it, but it's definitely a factor that kind of makes me double guess my confidence on a European. If you were to look at its midnight model run from yesterday, I could show you what it showed. There's that development of the system, even weaker, right? I mean, and it surprisingly showed that clipper yesterday, but not today, which is kind of strange that it kind of backed away from that. Look, there's that system, and it developed that storm very far to the north in terms of the snow, the very strong cold front still, and that clipper follows afterwards yesterday versus today, which it stopped doing that, which is weird because the GFS yesterday at midnight, I'm not sure if the model showed that clipper. Let's see if it did and what it did. You can see it's more consistent, right? It's a similar scenario to what I just showed you, and it did show that clipper following it. And almost 24 hours later, it shows a very similar storm. Look at that. Boom, right across the plains. It's actually gone a bit stronger since last night. Very strong cold front, and boom, that clipper. So you could see consistency, right? A trend. It's kind of your friend. Canadian model, I want to see what this one showed yesterday at midnight just to see its consistency. I don't think this one was as consistent as the GFS. Perhaps I am wrong. There we go. Okay, so it does still show a more southern scenario. You can see that snow kind of hatching into Kansas and Nebraska, but it is a bit, less consistent than the GFS. It develops that system more in the fashion of the European model run today. But again, ever since, and look, it does develop that more successful 1-2 punch, if you will. But ever since yesterday, the Canadian has converted towards more of the GFS scenario. Yeah, you could see right there for sure. So again, a trend is your friend, right? The European isn't following a trend. These models are, and it does show that clipper. So I would say that the Canadian and GFS, whichever one is more likely out of those two, I don't know, but I do think that they're more likely than, say, the European. Did I show you that? Yeah, I showed you the GFS snowfall amounts. I didn't show you the European snowfall amounts. Well, first, let's take a look at the rainfall, right? Pretty good, especially across where that cold front may intensify across the northeast. You can see the European doesn't show a lot of it across the northeast. It only shows the heaviest rains kind of catching the extreme jutted out areas off the coast, where, again, the more time it kind of passes, the more time it has to intensify, and this is further out, so we'll catch a bit more rain if that scenario is true. Right there, it would develop that very, very heavy snow, which is, again, more north of where the other models developed it. Still a very potent storm, and you can see the lake effect would be there nonetheless, because that's reliant on the cold air, not really the storm itself. And 36, 32, 28, those amounts are, I would say, more reasonable because it's further towards the north. Cold air is probably more available if this were to occur further towards the north. But again, it's a good chance that this will be further towards the south. I do want to show you the ensemble. So these are many, many, many models, and it's hard because on this website I can't click on a certain timeline of when I want the snowfall kind of to stop. I could show you 5-day snowfall, but that does not go out far enough to encapsulate that system. But within tomorrow, I think I will be able to start showing that. 5 days out will be enough. But yeah, so you can see that I have to resort to the 240, which is all good, but after every time I show you, I have to re-click here. So look at that one. This one is more of a, again, where that heaviest snow falls, not as far north as the European, bit further towards the south. Let me just click on all of these and show you the different scenarios. You can see that they're not all over the place, right? They're all starting to show snow somewhere in this area, not just across, Great Lakes, wherever else it may jump around. Yeah, guys, that's basically it for today's video. Hopefully you enjoyed. Hope you learned something new. The main takeaways: that confidence has grown for a system somewhere across these areas where the snowfall does occur. You can see clearly it would be heavy, probably over 2 feet in the hot spots. Again, I'm going to circle any of the areas that could be kind of seeing the heavy snow pockets. Now, the snow won't fall across such a large area. If it does fall across the north here will be rain. If it falls here will be rain, and here we won't see snow, right? So this is just anywhere that heavy snow swath could lie, which is pretty big range, but at least it's not like, a couple days ago where maybe it wouldn't occur here, but would here, and it was just all over the place. So it's a bit less all over the place. And regarding that second phase, that one's a bit less unknown, so we'll have to see that 1-2 punch. All right, guys, that is basically it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you all on the next episode. See you guys. Bye.